When it spawned the zombie, Night of the Living Unalive really landed on an antagonism that is still focused on in all sorts of zombie fiction today, my own included. Where We've Made It Dark comes out next month, and it's a literary apocalypse with zombies that's an impossible coming of age with nothing left to come of age to, and it leaves its characters no easy way out. There's more on my profile about that. But right now we're doing a philosophy of horror series. That's my specialty, especially zombies as philosophy. And we are going to focus on the foundational work, Night of the Living Unalive, which really narrows in on the relationship between its two main characters, Barbara and Bob. Is it Bob? So the antagonism really focuses on two responses to the zombie apocalypse. We have Barbara, a young woman who falls apart during it, and Ben, who is immensely capable and reasonable and does everything right. So we start with Barbara, and while she and her brother go out to a graveyard, because that's what young people do, he's mercurial and teasing her about being scared, and as he's doing that, the zombie threat comes and unalives him, and she goes running and escapes into this house in the middle of nowhere. So Barbara falls apart. Her consistency of who she is falls apart, and she's met almost out of nowhere, or literally out of nowhere, by Ben, who comes to the house too, and he very quickly starts boarding things up and starts fighting the zombies. So after a nice bit of action, we get a moment of respite. Ben and Barbara tell their own individual stories of dealing with this monster threat. And when it's Barbara's turn, she relives what we just saw her experience. So it's unnecessary from our point of view, but it leads her to the urgency of wanting to go back out there. Ben prevents her, he knocks her out, and that reduces her to a sort of quasi-comatose state. And it's from here that we undulate with an entrance of new characters from under the floorboards. We get this possibility of taking the zombie threat seriously enough to develop a plan to escape it and get on top of the whole thing. So there's this redoubled effort that we get by watching the TV and seeing media talk about, what the zombies are, what the rules are, how do we beat them. And so there's this effort to face the traumatic thing and pin it back down. So the zombie is a figure that undoes the world. And it's only by pinning down what it is for the symbolic, what it is for us, that we can get on top of it. And then the nice thing that Night of the Living Unalive reveals is this effort is Pyrrhic. It's bound to fail. So when they jump into action again and try to escape, things fall apart, people explode, and it leads to the zombies getting a snack. In this frying pan fire move, we get to the two aspects of the zombie that stick out from the way things should be. The zombie doesn't fall down when it's supposed to, so we get this continued. Once we have a gun, we see the gun shoot the body, and the zombie doesn't stop. So there's a nice focus on the unlife of the zombie, how it should fall down when it doesn't. This is my censored way to put it. And in that continued persistence, we get its enjoyment of consumption. So it consumes us, we fall apart in it, but there's this blind, thoughtless loop in the act of eating. So you get this focus on gruesome eating. That's quite nice. So these are the things that make the world literally fall apart. It's not as simple as focusing on the loss of your loved one as just as finitude and frailty. So as much as we're inclined to view Ben's actions as heroic, which they very much are, the real thrust of Night of the Living Unalive is that these heroic actions are a neurotic putting off of the way in which the world is undone, the gaps of the world. Neuroticism is jumping into action or words in order to put a buffer between you and the traumatic thing. So the reason why Barbara is not this, sexist portrayal of a woman is she is the one who is truly confronting what's traumatic about the zombie. Not just the fact that her brother is gone, but but the persistence, the unalive persistence of the zombie as it keeps coming to them. So the real thrust here is the difference between the masculine neurotic position of taking action and not facing what's traumatic about the zombie, and the feminine position of actually seeing what's traumatic about it and being caught in that traumatic loop, even if it's undoing. So in a lot of subsequent zombie fiction, the person who's in this undone position is cannon fodder. They're just doomed to the start. But very nicely, in this original work, Barbara does take action in the end as things are truly falling apart. She rises to fighting off the horde as it's coming into the house. It saves Ben, and she is undone not out of a misfortune, but when her brother appears. Her brother appears, grabs her. She dissolves into the zombie horde. So with Ben, we have this core conflict between him and Frank over what the group should be doing. And Frank, the person who came out from the floorboards, keeps betraying Ben. When he makes his move and tries to take the gun as the zombies are coming in, Ben gets the upper hand over him and he unalives him in cold blood. So the real thrust of that isn't a matter of like fighting for survival. It's their struggle, their antagonism happens without the cover of society to provide any buffer. It's just two people going at each other's throats. And so when Ben unalives him, it's a matter of him clinging to his own position. So there's a necessity in the fact that it's not necessary, that it is excessive, that he, after he gets the gun away from Frank, he shoots him. And interestingly, this very quickly thrusts him down into the floorboards that he tried to avoid up until now. The zombies come in, he flees down there. He has to repeat his violent action again. Frank is now a zombie. He unalives him, etc. So there's a digging down that's necessary in this zombie apocalypse. So when we get to a new day, we realize what the zombie was covering up, what its trauma was exposing, what we are for society. So the cavalry comes in shooting everything that moves, and when Ben comes up and looks out the window, he is shot immediately and thrown into a pile with all the other zombies and burned. There's a huge racial component to this. Ben is black. These are all white men. So what Night of the Living Unalive exposes is what we are for society. We are a zombie for society. We are there to be unalived at their own discretion. They are not there to come save us. All of Ben's heroic actions are shown for naught. They're shown to be neurotic. They're shown to be ways of not confronting this traumatic fact that Barbara does confront. And she is able to take action in this confrontation. So she's indwelling with the way in which she's undone. She is able to fight the zombie. It doesn't save her, but it is of a different register than the heroic actions of Ben. So both her actions and Ben's actions are different ways of struggling with this traumatic thing that sticks out from the natural order of things, from the way things are supposed to be. So again, with the zombie, namely, we're focusing on the persistence of humanity past unalive. So when things should fall, they don't fall. And in that persistence, there's enjoyment. We see the failures of codifying that into something. So Night of the Living Unalive is dealing with trauma in ways other zombie fiction isn't. Other zombie fiction, we know the rules, we're jumping into action, and whether things go right or wrong, there's a neat, safe spot to engage all of this. And Night of the Living Unalive does something very moving with its conclusion, with its unaliving of Ben. It happens very suddenly, and we shift immediately into these newspaper photographs of Ben's body being dragged out, and these white men feeling proud and puffed up in their actions. So it's just a very nice shift, and it's very moving still today. I deeply recommend you look up the film and watch it this spooky season.